All right, what is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Kendrick Youngblood. I'm going to be recording a little bit differently this time. I'm just trying new things, but let me know how y'all like it in the comment section. Like, subscribe. I'm just saying it up front because y'all be forgetting. All right. But we are covering 5 reasons you still ain't published. All right. So why you being rejected time and time again? I'm going to be explaining why. I've made some of these mistakes, so there's no judgment here. You know what I'm saying? But let's get right into it. So the first reason, you ain't subscribed to Youngblood Poetry. Oh my God. Who would put that there? Oh Lord, like the audacity. Oh my God. Anyway, let's be for real here, y'all. The first reason is you're not abiding by submission guidelines. All right. Sounds real simple, sounds real basic, but I've made this mistake before. I'm sure many of you have made this mistake without even realizing it and ended up getting rejected and asking yourself, "Oh my God, why didn't my submission get accepted? It was such a great poem, whatever." Well, you weren't following submission guidelines, all right? So here are some common ones that you might not be following: word count, page count, poem count, font, file type, accepted genres, theme, title, formatting, and then who's allowed to submit, right? So don't go submitting to UC Berkeley if you go to University of Kentucky, all right? Don't do that. If they say they only want Times New Roman and Arial, don't give them Comic Sans, okay? Please, y'all. If the theme of their journal is horror and you're submitting romance, like, stop it. These are really easy ways of an editor saying, we don't want that poem or we don't want that whole submission because they weren't following the rules, right? So, and every journal has different submission guidelines, all right? Now, unprofessional formatting would be the second reason, okay? Now, these unprofessional, writing professionally, there are no like clear-cut rules, but there's some things that are to be expected, right? So if you're not, say, if you don't have professional font, and those might be things like Times New Roman, Arial, Garamond, things like that. Even if they don't specify on a certain font that they want or that they like, don't go doing Comic Sans. just don't, or having changing fonts. So even if the font is professional, but you're like changing things up throughout the submission. So maybe the first poem is Times New Roman, but the second is Arial, the third is Garamond. No. You want it to be uniform in its appearance. Sure, the form of each poem can change, but you don't want the font to, right? Not having new poems start on new pages, that just looks unprofessional in and of itself. Typos, not having titles, no page numbers. Although the no page numbers is not mandatory, I would suggest it. Or having a page color other than white for your submission, that's also weird. Like, no. And again, these aren't like mandatory things that the journals are saying that they want, but they're to be expected. So unless the journal says, we want the weirdest, wackiest submissions ever, don't do that. All right. Yeah, you want to just abide by the norms when it comes to these things. You don't want a silly thing like page color to be the reason your amazing submission is not getting accepted, right? Okay, so the next thing would be not studying the literary journal's recent publications, right? So even though there might be some non-mandatory things, non-mandatory aspects of accepted submissions, you still want to research them because the editors might be unconsciously going for certain types of poems. Okay, so examples of these non-mandatories might be the length of the poems, right? So if you look at what's accepted, and they often accept poems that are less than a page long, don't go submitting a poem that's like 5 pages long. You know what I'm saying? If they only accept a strict traditional form, don't be submitting experimental stuff. All right. Even if they don't say that we only accept social justice poems, if that's all you see that they accept, don't go submitting, I don't know, some historical fiction or I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you just want to abide by not only the stated rules, but also by the non-stated rules, right? So topic and theme, and then even credentials, right? So the credentials of the published poets or the CV, right? You don't go submitting to Poetry Magazine, because if you look at the credentials of the poets who submit to Poetry Magazine and get published, they out here balling. Like, they're at the top of their game. Poetry Magazine is the best magazine in the game right now. You know what I'm saying? I made the mistake of making my first submission ever to Poetry Magazine because I didn't know any better. And they didn't even grace me with a rejection letter. They did not have the decency to send me a rejection letter. That's how much they were like, okay, who is this scrub? We ain't even going to acknowledge him. You know what I'm saying? So don't be me. Don't make that mistake. All right, so now we have not playing the numbers game. So what do I mean by the numbers game, and how exactly do you play? All right, so let's put it this way. It took me submitting to 16 different journals before I got my very first publication. Okay? If I had simply been like, let me just submit to one journal, wait for them to get back to me, I would have never seen the light of day. I would have never gotten published, all right? So what I ended up doing was sending to as many as possible as I could, maximizing the number of poems in each submission. And then, yeah, over time, I eventually started hearing back. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to cut yourself short. Do not sell yourself short. If the submission guidelines say we take up to 5 submissions and you have 5 that fit what they're looking for, send 5. Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? If you find out that there's 10 journals that have the due date for submissions, August 1st, make sure you submit to all of those that are due at August 1st. You know what I'm saying? Like, do not sell y'all so short. You know what I'm saying? Now, the last reason would be you aren't workshopping your poems. All right. So if you're doing all the other things I mentioned, but you're not having other people look at your work, maybe suggest edits and things like that. Come on, like, there's a reason for community. You want to take advantage of other creatives around you, see what might be working in your poem, what might be not, or even if something's working, maybe it could be working better. You know what I'm saying? No man has to be an island out here. No woman has to be an island out here. You can have other people suggest things to you about your poem that might enhance it, right? And maybe there could be one thing, just one thing about the poem that's keeping it from being published. But by showing it to somebody, maybe they'll enlighten you. All right. So again, like, subscribe, click the bell button. All right. Comment below what other things you might like this. You know what I'm saying? All right. Love y'all. Deuces.